Alright. Hello and welcome back. This is the GURPS Fallout RPG. Um, it was being developed years ago, but fell flat, so it never got completed. Here is the remnants of it. I know about it because of a video I watched from uh, KTS Mantis? Yeah, KTS Mantis. A YouTuber who does a lot of Fallout videos. Very nice guy. I recommend watching him. TKS, not KT. TKS Mantis. Very interesting guy. Weird, really different history, and what he's done over the years. And just watch him. Just watch him if you like Fallout. Fantastic guy. Shares a similar opinion I have about a certain YouTuber and the way they conduct Fallout videos. So you can find some interesting content from him. Anyway, so I've been listening to a lot of /X stuff last few days because I've just started listening to more stuff instead of just trying to talk to people on Discord while I drive around my state for work. And I've gotten back into a few of the channels I haven't listened to in a while. Midnight Broadcasts, which is one. They cover every night at midnight on Midnight Central Time. They release a video every night on time without any delay. And they posted one I listened to today, which was about human hunting. I have been listening to stuff about human hunting for the last few days. I listened to one years ago and heard another little story, green tech story that was dated back like almost 14 years ago. That some channel uploaded that I listened to a number of years ago. All this stuff happened. If you couldn't tell, there's a lot of years in between everything because I can't quite remember the exact date I listened to stuff. I do know that the story I listened to does predate Fortnite and PUBG and most of the Battle Royale Last Man Standing games, which is an argument people make a lot, is that all these stories come from people just playing those games and wanting to, make a creepypasta or egg story about it. And I can get where they're coming from with that. It's just some of the original stories date back well before that. And it is an interesting topic. Once again, you can't always believe what you read on the internet. You can't always believe what you hear either. And that's the only thing about it. But there are a number of factors that, to me, make the idea of people going out to hunt each other or hunt other people more believable than a lot of other things that people claim is real. They argue that if this stuff was real, the media would be all over it. They would not. They would not be all over it because we have, if you just look at the media, how the media functions, we have important court cases going on that get no coverage because everyone's too focused on a celebrity's baby or a celebrity dating someone. We have important things going on all the time, just it gets covered up by something mundane or something that most people don't think is newsworthy, or at least shouldn't get as much attention, like someone being a celebrity being arrested, or Twitter feeds, stuff like that. So the idea that the news media would just, broadcast this if they knew anything about it, no, I don't think they would. They don't want there to be a fear of going to the woods, because then they couldn't use nature to advertise things as much. Because in advertisement, whenever they want to show people being athletic or anything else, they show the woods. And if you associate something like the woods with the fear of being hunted by someone else, then you can't advertise nearly as much stuff involving the woods. It comes down to advertisement, in my opinion. But moving on from that, how would human hunting actually work? Well, we know that serial killers function, and they they usually target individuals who by themselves, usually fit a profile they're after and whatnot. Well, there were two serial killers who admitted that they stalked and hunted people in the woods. Which, I think those are the two that were caught. We have all the people who go missing, which are mentioned in the books, Missing 411, and its expanded series. How many of those people who go missing weren't picked up by someone who was actively using the forests, the woods, the trails that take you way out in the middle of nowhere as a hunting ground? Even the most of the time when they find someone who's gone missing 10, 20, 30 years later, or any length of time between, they usually are too, the rains are too scattered to really figure out exactly what happened. And because it takes so long for some of the remains to be found anyway, there's a slight chance that they'll be found to begin with and actually be able to find who did it. And ultimately, it's easier to say an animal did it than it is to do an investigation. But yeah, the idea, I should probably get into the actual stories that keep popping up on /X. So the idea is simple. You have people who go in the woods, that go in the woods willingly, for whatever reason, whether it is to just have a thrill of hunting the most dangerous game, just for the thrill of it. A bunch of people who are depressed and have nothing else to live for, doing it just to, get the death they want, and the winner gets a new lease on life. Or it's someone paying these people to do it, and whoever wins, of course, gets the payout. The motif, the idea behind them is the same as well. Well, how they operate is these have various weapons from a compound bow, crossbow, a single file bolt action, a black powder rifle. That's a stretch. Bayonet. Melee weapons between bayonets, swords, clubs, axes, throwing knives, throwing axes, basically anything and everything that you think you can use to take down someone else. And of course, the more silent it is, the better, because one thing that pops up a lot is gunshots happening, people go investigate. Now, another thing that is associated with these stories are flares. Flares of different colors. Green, red, yellow, white, orange, black. For those you don't know, different colors have different meanings. And the idea is the flares are there to signal the start of are there to signal the start of the game. But then you have some people who claim in other stories that the flares are shot up not to signal anything particular, but are there to attract people to the location. The people in the woods who are just, hanging out. Because then that's when you get people. This is where the characteristic of these stories change a little bit. And you don't have people hunting each other, agreeing to hunt each other. You have people setting traps to hunt anyone who comes to investigate the flares or the gunshots. It's interesting. The whole concept behind it's interesting. I would love to see a video game that actually, plays on that. Where I know it'd be more difficult to sell the game if you are the hunter hunting the innocent people. but I think that they could probably develop it and get away with it if they make it where you are being hunted and trying to, well, basically survive. There's also that to me would be kind of interesting, having to actually use camouflage and whatnot and buckle down, having an actual dense forest to move around in, not the big open forest like Skyrim or Oblivion or Witcher or any other game that has a quote forest or woods where you can see easily a clear mile because the trees are not not next to each other. You could drive a tank through the trees if you wanted to. Though an actual dense forest with bushes, fallen trees, scattered rocks, inclines, ditches, random holes in the ground where a root system gave out and the entire ground just sunk. I think that would be an interesting game in general. But on to more stuff involving this stuff. How much of it do I actually believe is real? I don't believe every story is real. I think some of them are based on a concept that is real because it makes sense that there are people who would do this. With how many people are depressed nowadays, and the sheer amount of people willing to do whatever for money, I can see this becoming more of a prevalent idea that actually gets traction because, little. I'm sorry, I got distracted by a little. Oh, that's my engine giving out. Of course it did. They stuck me in the shitty van. I hit the brakes and my engine turned off. Hell. It's always fun, when something happens in Prop 2 in this shitty little van I drive. Well, at least I have it on recording now that, the engine randomly just cuts completely off when I hit the brakes. Maybe they'll finally give me a new one so I can stop driving it. Whatever. But yeah, I do believe that there is some concept behind it. Whether it be just people willing to go and do stuff. That's good. That's good. Just some concept of people going out and trying to get money for basically hunting people they don't know. I think that is very much a possibility because there are people with more money than they have sense, and if you look at the fall of any empire or read about the philosophy of empires when they start to fall, those with the means to have those with the money, the currency, the main source of most of the resources, they tend to get more eccentric as the empire gets closer and closer to falling. And we are seeing this. We see people we've seen people go down in that stupid submarine controlled by a game controller, die because they went too deep and the thing just crushed. You've got other cases of people spending money on things they really shouldn't be spending money on, but they can because they have the money. So I can see people who have the money and have the time setting up an entire camera network on a mountainside and having people go up there to find out who's the last man standing and claim cash reward. It wouldn't be the weirdest thing. People have reported over the years finding game cameras out in the middle of nowhere. And when they go back there the next time to see if the camera's still there, the camera's gone. So nothing weird there. Game cameras are all over the place, but we know we have the technology and it's easy enough to just have cameras all over the place. Going back to a story of my grandfather told me when him and his buddies, long time ago. My grandfather was probably late 20s, early 30s when this supposedly happened. He was on. This would have been. Let's see. He's 80 now, so about 40 years ago. I'm gonna say 50 or 40 years ago because he may have been in his late 30s. He never tells me the exact age he was when some of this stuff happens. But he was on an army base, Fort Stewart, because they have areas that at that time that were open for the public to go fishing. You had to buy a pass to go there and fish and hunt and whatnot. So they bought the fishing pass and went to one of the campground they told them to go to, camp and spot everything. Well, apparently they caught a lot of fish from frying them up. Well, they noticed that pile kept on never. They fried up. They caught a lot of fish, fried them all up, and was having a good time drinking and eating fish. And they cooked too much, put all the fish on one side that they weren't going to get to right then and there. Probably save them for breakfast the next day. And as that pile started getting smaller, they figured, okay, well, maybe a raccoon came by and grabbed some. No big deal. Well, then the beer started disappearing. They weren't supposed to have beers on the base. That's one thing about Fort Stewart at the time. You can't have, might still be this day, I don't know. But you can't have beer, alcohol on the military base. They snuck some in. Well, they're trying to, get pissed off because they think their one friend they brought with them is drinking all the beer. That's when my grandfather said that they see a bush right there these little logs that were set down for them to sit on. A bush had appeared next to those logs and started talking to them, saying, "Yeah, that's some nice fish you got there. You got any more? No, that's some nice fish you got there, and there's some pretty good beer. You got a cigarette?" So apparently, my grandfather and his friends have been surrounded by soldiers training around the campgrounds on Fort Stewart. They didn't realize they were surrounded by the soldiers. That's how well the camouflage they were. But the soldier let my grandfather know and his friends know that that don't worry, you're fine. A lot of people bring beer out here. And the soldiers recommend you just hurry up and drink it now, and hide the empties in your truck, because they're not going to come do a full search of your truck. They apparently, according to the soldier, Fort Stewart has a bunch of microphones and cameras all over the place, because he points to an oak tree and says, "You see that pine cone in the oak tree?" "Yeah, well, what about it?" My grandfather's friend said. "Yeah, how many pine cones do you know grow in oak trees?" So that's the story my grandfather's told me many times. Little bits of detail change here and there. He's old, to be expected. But I can imagine someone rich enough just doing something similar like that on a mountainside, just having a bunch of cameras and microphones so they can record something like that happening. Yes, I'm thinking of this more like a Squid Game situation. The idea came from somewhere. Yeah, it all could have been made up and whatnot, but people who are desperate for money will do a lot of things. And I don't think the whole concept of human hunting is as far-fetched as people want to say it is, or how much bullshit it is. There is a very high possibility that stuff like this is happening regularly. We just don't hear much about it because the moment we start thinking that the wilderness is full of people hunting each other, the more likely we are to not get involved with the wilderness, which would destroy a lot of businesses. Dick's Sporting Goods, or basically anything that involves camping will stop. It would just simply stop in a lot of places. Tourism to those areas would stop too, because if you go to an area for the hiking trails, but then there's all these reports of people being hunted down on hiking trails by people, well, you're not going to want to go hiking that often anymore anyway. There's more that can fall apart and cost money for, well, damage the economy, damage investors, damage special interests, if the media actually started reporting on all these human hunting activities. Because it's not reported on, we have to basically go off of what people post on the internet and what little bit of stories that get put in newspapers here and there across the country. We don't have enough to actually say this is what's going on. Just like, oh, that's a weird thing that happened. Must have been a hunting accident, or there's not enough evidence to say what's going on, because it's not really, none of it's really reported as, and when it gets to newspaper, reported as human accident, human hunting. It's reported as a shootout over drugs or something like that. Something that's believable to everyone else. I don't know exactly. I just do think that human hunting probably is a thing going on in North America woods and forests. It's probably also in other places too. I can I can definitely see it happening Eastern in some of Eastern Europe, in China, North Korea, stuff. Basically, any place that has a lot of area that's just empty, like Australia. Australia has the outback. I can see it happening in the outback too. There's a lot of weird stuff going on in the outback anyway, because there's all kinds of stories from Australia. People breaking down or seeing burnt out caravans, their trailers, just on the side of the road, or campers just burnt out, and no evidence of anyone ever trying to do, move the vehicle or anything else like that. The vehicle's just on the side of the road burnt out. Some of it's due to mechanical failure, people just fucking around. There's also stories of people in Australia who just go out, take trips on the outback, and they're being shot at by random people. Just, I don't know. Personally, it even thinking about there could be, even thinking about human hunters being real and whatnot, it's not going to deter me from going into the woods and the forest. It just might make it where I'm more than likely going to have something to defend myself with. And that's what I recommend everyone do anyway. That's what a lot of things recommend you do, is bring something to defend yourself with. If you can bring a gun, bring a gun. If you can't bring a gun, bring something that can at least deter something. Whether even if it's not human, if it's an animal, bring something to deter the animal attack, such as mace, bear mace, moose mace, stuff like that. Pay attention to your surroundings. Check to see if you feel like something's off in the area, leave the area. Stuff like that. Trust in your innate instincts, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, I think that's enough of this. This is the second time I recorded. The first time I recorded, I kept getting pinged by Discord, so I tried editing out using the program on my phone. It did not work very well, so I had re-record the entire thing, which I'm glad I did, because I was a little bit more coherent this time around. That's the thing. Every time I post a video, there's a good chance that is one of many attempts at the video, because I don't have access to very good editing software, especially not on my phone. So I typically just do retake after retake after retake after retake. Yes, it's quite annoying. Anyway, y'all have fun. Goodbye.